Thanks, Quinn. And we've already moved back into open from our closed session. And we have, moving out of the open session, we have a reporting out of close, I should say, moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Elliott. I'm going to get the clerk to read all this because I'm going to need it for later. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Whereas the town is the sole shareholder of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas Minto Hydro Services, Inc. is a corporation incorporated under the Business Corporation Act, Ontario, for a purpose associated with the generation, transmission, distribution, or retailing of electricity by a corporation incorporated pursuant to Section 142 of the Electricity Act 1998, and whereas the minute book for the Minto Hydro Services, Inc. cannot be located, and whereas the organizing special shareholders resolution is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas the share subscription is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas a consent to audit exemption is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas the organizing shareholders resolution is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas a remedial resolution for shareholders is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and whereas a remedial resolution for audit exemption is necessary to create or recreate the minute book for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Minto is in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., consider a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute an organizing special resolution of the shareholders of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and further that the Council of the Town of Minto, in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., considers a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a share subscription for the Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and further that the Council of the Town of Minto, in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., consider a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a consent to audit exemption for Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and further that the Council of the Town of Minto, in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., consider a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute an organizing resolution of the shareholders of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and further that the Council of the Town of Minto, in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of the Minto Hydro Services, Inc., consider a bylaw session in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a remedial resolution of the shareholders of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., and further that the Council of the Town of Minto, in support of the steps necessary to recreate the minute book of Minto Hydro Services, Inc., consider a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a remedial resolution audit exemption for Minto Hydro Services, Inc.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wants that read over? You good?
Please.
Question?
Mayor Bridge, I'd like to know how long it took you to write that.
I didn't write it, but thank you for that. Any other questions? All in favor? I looked down here, everybody had their arms up. I think anybody opposed? No, good, okay. I was looking and then you were down already. Got to get used to this regular stuff now.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
thank
slow
you.
up.
All right. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Dirksen, the minutes of the Town of Minto, June 21st, 2022, closed session, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Additional items for other business. Anybody got additional items? Judy, Mark? Ron? Okay. Anybody doesn't have one? Oh, or not, okay, anyways, good. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gudson, the Town of Minto Council convenes in a committee of adjustment. All in favor? Carried. And Judy, you want to step for a bit or not out, but I guess you have to, I don't know if you have to worry it out. But
Step away.
off the,
There's what Councillor Dirksen had,
do I have to say that?
just that she had.
Yeah. She mentioned it before.
Yep, not an open though.
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, Councillor Dirksen has declared a conflict on this item. Number 8AMV 2022-09, Harrison Agrimart 6308 Wellington Road 109. Reason for declaration is side yard relief request on the east side of the proposed building abuts their property. So, thanks for that, Judy. Okay. So we start off, I've got, I'll call the public hearing to order to state any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. I will state the following. Public hearing is to consider a minor variance application MV 2022-09 Harrison Agromart Inc. I will call on the Secretary Treasurer McRobb to state the following information.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as concession C, part lot 96, part lot 97, and is municipally known as 6308 Wellington Road 109 in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 7.22 acres or 2.92 hectares. The purpose and effect of the minor variance application is to provide relief from section 23.2.4 and section 23.2.6 of the town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw 01-86 as amended to permit for a reduced interior side yard and rear yard setback. Required interior side yard setback is 19.7 feet, whereas 10 feet is proposed. The required rear yard setback is 24.9 feet, whereas 10 feet is proposed. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on June 27, 2022, and posted on the subject property on June 28, 2022. Reports and comments have been received from our planning technician for the town of Minto, as well as the junior and senior planner for the Wellington County. I would advise that no persons have registered to speak to the application other than the owner.
Thank you, Annalene. And so I will then call on Ashley to do the town report. Right, Ashley.
Okay, so good afternoon. So as Annalene mentioned, this is for the Harrison Agromart. They're proposing to construct a new 19,000 square foot shop / seed storage warehouse to meet the demand of their growing business. They have explored other locations on their property which are not feasible for the current site layout and operation of their business. So they are requesting a reduced interior and rear yard relief for 10 feet. They currently have 9 full-time employees and 10 seasonal, and this expansion will allow them to bring on 2 of those seasonal as full-time and continue to grow. County planning, Maitland Valley, source water protection, and the town have no concerns, but we are recommending 2 conditions at the town level. The first being that we would like a grading and drainage plan to the town's satisfaction, and the second is to do with the Ontario Building Code, and it is requiring a limiting distance agreement be registered on title of the adjacent properties. As when buildings are constructed close to the property lines, the building code requires these minimum distances based on their construction type to prevent the transfer of fire to adjacent structures. The agreement is registered on title of the adjacent lands the relief encroaches onto so that the current and future owners are aware of the constraints on the property. The affected property owners need to agree and consent to the agreement. And as Annalene mentioned, we didn't have any comments or concerns received.
Thank you, Ashley. Sean, did you want to speak to it at all, or got you online there? Maybe you might be on mute there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, Ashley has summarized it quite well. Just in order to build the size of a structure that we need for our current and growing business, we would need the minor variance in order to do that. And there's no other appropriate spot on our property that would allow for a building of this size. So it's pretty straightforward, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, thank you. Just hang on, and I'm going to turn it over to the committee here to see if there's any questions for either you or Ashley. Anybody? No? Dave?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sean, it's great to see you guys growing. And that is a huge building. There's a lot of square footage there. I certainly hope you get it filled up and come to us for another one.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is step one of a few steps down the road, we hope. So we appreciate that.
Yes, you've come a long way, Sean, on that whole development out there, for sure. Well, much appreciated. Okay, so no other further questions. Turn it over to
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I will provide the approved one
I
for
think so.
further consideration.
Yep.
Just to note that upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of that decision. It would be that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment application by Harrison Agromart Inc. for property legally described as concession C, part lot 96, part lot 97, municipally known as 6308 Wellington Road 109, to provide relief from section 23.2.4, 23.2.6, and 8.5, 2.5, the Town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw 01-86 as amended to permit for a minimum rear yard and interior side yard setback of 10 feet.
Okay, we need a mover and a seconder. Ron and Jeff, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. And I will just say, anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment with respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison NOG 1ZO, or email at annaline@town.minto.on.ca. I'll officially adjourn the meeting. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Anderson, the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convenes into Committee of the Whole. All in favor? It's carried. No public meetings, and we have a delegation. And I'm so pleased about this delegation that's coming up today, and I've Cynthia and Jesse. And I just want to say, it's been a long journey. And I remember, I can't remember, it was at least 4 years ago that you came originally with this idea that we could maybe do this, and we were coming through a very tragic time. And I just really, the two of you have been the driving force behind it. So it's nice to see you to report to us tonight. So without further ado, if you want to come up and yeah.
Thanks. Thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate being able to come and update you on our progress. So let's start with the second slide. So just to sort of refresh your memories, what you have created for local youth is a one-stop shop for youth between the ages of 12 and 26 to have access to a wide range of needs. So they walk in the door and they can get virtually anything that they need right on the spot. So let's say there's a service in Guelph. We would connect with that service in Guelph and they would come up to meet that youth. We have over 30 service providers that provide anything from resume writing to educational support if somebody's trying to fill out a college application or a university application, to mental health support, to addiction and substance use support as well. We have lots of kids coming in our door saying, a friend of mine, I have concerns about a friend of mine, and we've got social workers right on site that can manage that. The system is working extremely well. It's integrated and service partners are working together, which is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody is putting youth first. Next slide. So very quickly, where did we start? In 2018, Dr. Joanna Henderson came to speak to the Rotary Club of Guelph. I happened to be in the audience along with there was about 85 people in the room, but 20 of us really wanted to drive this project forward. So she described Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario, the model about the integrated centralized care. That's about intervention and prevention. And we loved the idea of being proactive. And it wasn't shortly thereafter that I met Jessica from Minto Mental Health and Mayor Bridge. And we began our journey down this path. At the time, there were 10 youth hubs in Ontario, just getting started and up and running. As of June 2021, the provincial government added 4 more, of which the Grove, Wellington, Guelph hub. So we have 7 sites, but the hub, we're considered one site. they added us on. And so we got some sustainable funding. And today, so February, they added more. And so today in Ontario, there's 22. When we started, there were 40 across Canada. They're now 69 across Canada of these integrated youth services hubs. They're a growing phenomenon because they work. Next slide. So when we first started here, when we first came to you, we called ourselves the Integrated Youth Services Network. So we needed to rebrand because that wasn't very youth friendly. So we brought together a group of youth, we worked with them, and they came up with the new brand of the Grove, Wellington Guelph. They really wanted an environmental theme. They wanted a warm, welcoming space, a place to grow, connect, and stay. So next slide. This is our video, quick video of our new brand. Oh, we need some sound.
I'd have to turn the TV up to hear. Sorry about the feedback. So next slide. We are officially a Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario site, as I mentioned. We're just the next evolution. So the sites in Ontario are mostly one bricks and mortar site. We chose to go down the path of what was next. So what were the next 3 priorities for Joanna Henderson as she developed these hubs? And the 3 priorities were rural access. She very clearly told us in 2018 that we are not meeting the needs of rural youth well anywhere across Canada. So for heaven's sakes, don't build a great big site in downtown Guelph because you'll be missing way too many youth. So that's when we came up with the 7 sites, 1 door model. Transitional aged youth who hit the age of 18 are now considered adults, and therefore they have to navigate the adult system. And I have a challenge navigating the adult system. On the best of days, I can't imagine how a 20-year-old is supposed to do it. So that's why we partnered with the University of Guelph. And we have our site there just opened 2 weeks ago. So we had a grand opening there. And that's the first of its kind in Canada, where the community youth and University of Guelph youth can actually both be serviced at the same site. And we're being watched very closely because other universities may want to duplicate the model. And then there's the technology piece, having all service providers on one database system so that if youth wanted to give us permission, we can share that information. And why that's important is I can tell you from personal experience that when I was going through the mental health challenges that my daughter experienced, she had to tell her story over and over and over again. And she finally said to me after we have seen 35 professionals, I don't want to see anybody anymore. I don't want to tell my story again. So what we have created is a space where youth can say, I don't want that service provider to know about my story, but yes, you can share my information with the social worker at the hub and the social worker at CMHA, and maybe the mental health professional at Family and Child Services.
So youth not only have a choice of who they share their information with, but they don't have to tell their story over and over and over again. It's a big bonus. Next slide. Just to remind you, it's an evidence-based model. The model has been studied. KMH is involved and researchers, and we're really targeting on intervention and prevention. Next slide. The model is designed to increase service availability, accessibility, that sense of belonging. So if we don't have the trust of youth, they're not going to come in the door. So we first focus on that sense of belonging and building that trust. And then we wanted to increase the services to Wellington County. That's why we started with Wellington County. That's why we partnered with East Wellington Community Services. CMHA helped us in Fergus. And of course, the Township of Minto was a leader here in Palmerston to get us the space where we deliver services across from Norwell District High School. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jess to finish our presentation.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. Oh, Quinn, you're on it. Thank you. So on the screen here, you can see it's working. This is what we're seeing in the County of Wellington. These numbers are impactful. These are what we're seeing day in and day out at the hubs. Like 14,000, just over 14,000 youth through the doors in September is incredible. And recognizing that where were those youth before, this was a space to go. It's pretty amazing to see. And they're accessing a variety of things, including drop-in counseling services that wasn't there before the Grove existed. So it's pretty impactful to see in our small communities, everyone coming together. And then in our hubs, we all have this, it's called a Happy or Not, and our youth give it a little press of the button of how they liked their stay or their experience at the Grove that day, because we really want to be held accountable and make sure that their experiences are good. And if they're not, how do we improve? We're always changing. We're always wanting to improve. So this is a way to get that information back to us. And currently over 90% of that feedback has been positive. And if it's not, they often let us know where we can grow and where we can improve. And that's what we want. We want to just continue to evolve and grow. And that's going to help us capture that. The next slide, please, Quinn. This is a snapshot of what we saw specifically in the Palmerston site for the month of June. You'll see there was 629 youth visits in the month of June. And it's pretty incredible to see because those youth are day in and day out coming every day. It's the space they identify as where they want to go. On there, it also captures our skills and well-being activities. So any programming we put on in the hub, we capture that as well. And youth are coming to those as well. So it's pretty incredible to see in the small community of Palmerston what we're reaching and who we're reaching, and the number of youth that are accessing day in and day out. Next slide, please, Quinn. So this is just an overview of our sites that are open right now. Obviously, we have the Palmerston site up and running and it's going really well. We have a Center Wellington site in Fergus, our East Wellington site. Cindy spoke to our University of Guelph site that officially had their grand opening a couple weeks ago. And we also offer services, although the bricks and mortar site is not open at the YMCA. This just shows how our partnership is and that they're allowing us space to be able to offer some support at the YMCA 2 days a week.
The expansion.
Yeah, so sorry, the expansion of the Y hasn't happened 100% yet, but we're still able to offer services within that space. And then the next slide, I'm not going to read this specific story, but I want to share some specific stories about our space in Palmerston. We are seeing some youth in our spaces. We are actually some youth, a lot of youth, and a lot of youth who are requiring some services and some navigation support. And 2 youth in particular come to mind that have access services and have been put on wait lists through CMHA for ongoing counseling. However, to break down that barrier of waiting in limbo and not knowing what's next and trying to navigate, our staff at the Grove are continuously checking in and making sure and able to kind of identify what are their goals, how do we support you until you get into that, because it's no secret to everyone here, we're in a mental health crisis. We're trying to continue to support, but there's capacity issues. So this is just helping our youth to not fall through those cracks. That's what we're trying to do, is be proactive and preventative instead of that reactive piece that we have unfortunately been for some time. So we're really filling those gaps. Our staff at the hub are incredible to be able to really build trust and connection and to provide that support ongoing until they have that clinical connection through CMHA. And our staff at the Grove are connecting that very seamlessly due to the great uptake with our service providers and our partners. It's pretty incredible to see.
I'd like to give you one specific example. On a Thursday, youth came in to talk to one of our youth outreach workers and had built a relationship over time with that youth outreach worker. The youth was fine on the Thursday afternoon. On Friday evening, the youth went into crisis and happened to call here 24/7, and they were suicidal. The the operator who answered the call knew about the Grove, so knew to access the youth's file, was able to pick up on some of the nuances that the youth had told the youth outreach worker. So therefore, the operator was able to stabilize the youth over the weekend. Then on Monday morning, the youth outreach worker comes in, sees the red flag and says, I need to call this youth, reads through what happened on the Friday night and throughout the weekend. We were able to not only save the youth from self-harm, but divert a hospital stay, able to help the youth connect with their family. And then on Monday, our youth outreach worker called and said, why don't you come in after school and let's talk, and so it's working. We have thousands of stories like that. Like, it's unbelievable what the staff is being able to do here.
And that just kind of that full circle care and that not siloed approach anymore. We're really able to fill those gaps and to support holistically, which is a huge piece. Next slide, please, Quinn. And what else we're seeing, we've spoken to the clinical piece of it a lot, but what else we're seeing is that drop-in piece. And truthfully, that drop-in piece is how we're getting in, individuals into the clinical stream, is that trust they're building, the safe space they're identifying the Grove as. It's a space to come and hang out, which then all of a sudden turns into a space where, oh my gosh, I really experienced this really traumatic event on the weekend, but I didn't have anyone to talk to. But I've been sitting here with Mel at the Grove in Palmerston, and I just really feel this trust with her. Right there, it's that connection piece, that trust, that drop-in turned into clinical support. And drop-in is a huge component of the Grove, which is incredible to see, including tutoring. We have an amazing tutor and a group of tutors who come in to fill that gap as well, where youth are maybe identifying some struggles in school. They're accessing our team at the Grove, so the coordinators, the staff, and as well as our skills and well-being classes, education, employment. Cindy talked to all those. We're seeing it all at the Grove, and it's pretty cool to see how we're touching on all different aspects of our well-being. Next slide, please. And this is our clinical team. So since we've came and spoken to the council here, we have grown exponentially, and it's incredible to see how much has happened. Mayor Bridgie spoke to it from 2019, a conversation and an idea turned into a real life space, and just life-changing kind of moments that we're having day in and day out. So we have a mental health clinician on site in our Wellington County sites. This individual travels from our Wellington County sites and is actually at the Grove Palmerston today. They're on Tuesdays and is able to provide that walk-in counseling weekly. And if we need them at that individual a different day, they are willing to, they go where the needs are and where the youth need them. And it's a pretty cool approach to care. We have 2 youth concurrent support coordinators. So those are individuals who are able to talk about, to connect the substance use and mental health struggles. They kind of grab both of those and work along with those kind of youth that we're seeing. We have 3 youth outreach workers, so 1 at each of our rural Wellington sites, Erin, Fergus, and Palmerston, and then 2 youth wellness coordinators who help with our intake process and our administrative pieces, and to help us all kind of be able to capture what we need to capture. And then each site has a site lead as well, helping to kind of work with the team to provide that ongoing support to our youth.
So what's really important here is CMHA Waterloo Wellington is our backbone organization, and these are employees of CMHA. They work for the Grove, so we're a sort of sidearm, but they're highly trained mental health clinicians, so they have to follow all of the registration requirements and legal aspects of delivering mental health care.
And to piggyback off of that, also the benefits of being CMHA employees and being able to do internal referrals is a very easy pathway for our staff who are employed by CMHA. That referral pathway is less strenuous than because they have access to all those documents and internally can make those referrals, which makes it a lot more seamless for our youth. The next slide is about our Youth Ambassador Training Program. This is an incredible program. These youth are the face, I like to say they're the face of the growth, because these are the first people that the youth see. These are our youth ambassadors who they come in and they greet our youth, they connect with our youth, play card games with our youth, video games with our youth, whatever the youth want to do, they're there to interact. And to touch on that, they go through a very intense training program to be able to teach them how to be an ally and also teach them their own boundaries of what's an appropriate relationship, what's not. We want to set these youth up for success, and it's ongoing training. They're always learning, they're always growing in their roles. So on the screen, you'll see that they have different allyships that they do. And this is a really cool program we did with a class at University of Guelph. They were instrumental in the creation of this program. And we had Nida, a co-op student with us, who created and developed this. And it's an amazing program. And a story about our Youth Ambassador Training Program, a story in particular in Palmerston. We had a youth walk in on their birthday and they were so excited. They're like, I'm excited, I'm gonna write a resume. Our youth ambassador sat down with this youth, they wrote a resume together. This youth hopped on their bike, went up to a local spot in Palmerston, interview on the spot, and got their first job. Biked back, they were sweating because they were biking so fast in that heat, and thanked our youth ambassador for the support that they had. So it just paints out what these youth ambassadors can do and how impactful they can be and important that role is in our hubs. To be that first, that just shows how much trust and relationship they've built with that youth to make such an impactful support and help for that. That's a big thing for a youth, right? And we were so proud, and really it just shows how important that role, that ambassador program is. And then the next slide, please, Quinn. Oh, the next one, sorry. I just skipped over. Those are the pictures of the allyship guides. And then the last one should be the EDIIR. Quinn? Oh, it's not coming up. Oh, there it is. Little lag, that's okay. So our EDIIR framework, which is the Equity, Diversity, Inclusions, and Indigenous Reconciliation Framework, is a framework we're doing to ensure that the Grove is a welcoming space for everyone. And this was a framework created by, actually, it was a placement student who now has turned into a full-time employee with the Grove, created this framework to make sure that we're accountable. We're held accountable for meeting these needs, and for also ensuring the space is a welcoming and accepting place. And it's ongoing. We're always learning. It's always evolving as we learn more. And we also have ongoing working group that will continue to make sure that this is implemented within our within the hub.
So one thing that's really important to note is our service providers are allowed to use our space at no cost as long as they deliver services at no cost to youth. So a youth can come in and access resume writing, the tutoring services that we offer, the whole gamut at no cost. And that we're removing as many barriers as possible. And it's stigma-free. So we welcome well youth as well, right? So you don't have to be ill to come through the doors. You know, there are lots of youth who just want to hang out and grab a cup of coffee and charge their phones, and they're welcome as well.
And I think the next slide is just going to pass it back over to council if there's any questions.
Thanks, Jess, and I'm sure there might be, so I'll just turn it over to council. I got Jean and then Ron. Go ahead, Jean.
Hi there. Thanks for your hard work here. I'm wondering about linkages directly with Cape and or Homewood, seeing as you cover both age ranges.
Yeah, they're crisis services. So we have pathways to get them there if they're in crisis.
Okay.
And we do warm handoff. So we don't send a youth somewhere and say, here's the phone number. We go with them.
Okay.
to make sure that they're safe and they have a warm transition so that they have that, build that trust.
So you have a path that you can get to without
Correct.
bringing them to the emergency
Absolutely.
department, because
Mhm.
that's
Yep.
the last place they
Yeah.
need to be, but they
Correct.
frequently end up
Yeah.
there. But
Yep.
if we
And
can avoid
and it
that.
goes back both ways, Jean. If they are in Cape, then they're able to communicate with the Grove and set up a plan for when they return home. We're able to be connected that way as
Yes,
well.
because Cape's, one of their original intentions was to have pathways between, but it's difficult, confidentiality issues
Yeah.
and so on, and bringing us up to date at the hospital. They just don't have enough staff to do that. They were
Yeah.
trying to do that at the beginning. But to stop the people who need more support than others
Yeah.
showing up and emerge all the time. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ron.
Yeah, I was thought back when we were in 2019, when you were bringing this forward to council, and I thought a big mistake, we're going beside the high school. I probably remember we saying that. I thought there wouldn't be anybody show up because they were afraid everybody was looking at them. Boy, was I wrong. I drive by, they're lined up, waiting to go in. They're sitting outside. Can I have my turn to go in? I can see that. It amazed me at what the need was
Yeah.
for even somewhere for them to hang out, whether they have problems or not
Mhm.
problems. Also, I know of a youth that attended the Grove, and he needed support. And he wasn't getting anywhere with anything at school, friends. And I know the parents were really concerned. He headed down to your group and he's made an amazing turnaround. Just a place to hang out. He got some tutoring that he needed, as you had said, and I'm quite amazed at what would happen. And it's a place that we needed in our community. And I had no idea how bad we needed it. And thank you for bringing it forward.
Every time I hear stories like that, I get goosebumps.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Jess and Cindy. Just a quick question. What do you think the average age is that's attending?
No, that's in Palmerston.
I can speak to that. I bet you are 15, 16 currently. During the school year, we see a lot of our high school students popping over. And during our summer, we see the lower end of the 12, 13, 14. But average would be about 15, 16. Currently, we're trying to extend and reach our older youth too, and the transitional youth, but in Palmerston specifically is 15, 16 right now.
I just
In
wonder if there's something
Fergus-
you're missing to get the older.
Yeah, no, we're targeting the older ones.
Yeah.
In Fergus, the kids are lying about their ages to come in. Right?
Yeah.
They'll be 10. And so Mateo will say, all right, we'll just let them in and we'll watch them
Yeah.
carefully. And the older youth are showing up at the Y and at the University of Guelph.
And Jeff, to kind of speak about that a little bit more, it is on our radar. We're holding things such as older youth nights. Although we had one and we didn't have any youth show up, we're still going to offer them because it's still going to continuously be something that pops up and that's available to them, because we recognize that it's not just going to happen overnight. We got to build that rapport and that understanding that we're not just here for the younger ages, we're here for the older ages as well. And working alongside the team to kind of brainstorm ideas how we're going to target those old youth. There's been talks about maybe having like a professional headshot for our older youth who are trying to get jobs, or LinkedIn, like those things that are going to draw our youth in, our older youth. So we're working diligently on that. It'll take some time, but we're working on that. No problem.
Mark, you have
Just a comment, thanks. Jessica and Cindy, it must be amazing, satisfying to have 600. Like, we don't want it growing, but they open up and come into the hub, it must be quite satisfying.
Very.
I went past today and this is on the lighter side.
Yeah.
There was 12 cars in that parking lot and 3 on the side and they were all black.
Yeah.
I said, what the heck's that? But there must have been something else going on in there.
Yeah, I think some other people stop in too, but we, like the staff there, park, but oftentimes we're getting our youth to come in, and like it ebbs and flows. Like I think we had 3 in there playing, what was it? They were playing a card game, and Cindy and I
It's just full.
yeah, it's wonderful to see it, and it's full. It is. We're grateful for the constant flow through.
Just noticed the color, they were all black. It seemed to went on to the cars were, I mean.
Thanks, Rich, Jesse, I just thought, thanks as well. comment might. You guys are open. Almost a year, that's really good. Folks come in and because they, you know, they build confidence in you as well. They know where to go rather than the alternatives.
Yeah, and we're working really closely to touch on that, Deputy Mayor Turton. We're working closely with the school, so there's been those soft handoffs for some youth that may have, there was some worry about them falling through the cracks during the summer, because when school ends, so does their services that they access through the school. So bridging that gap to continue that has proven to work. We're working with the schools pretty closely, and it's a pretty amazing handoff to be able to service those youth 12 months of the year instead of just those 10 months that they get at the school board. But we're grateful for the support they get at the school, and we want to complement what they're getting there. No problem.
Maybe I'll just finish up a couple of things that Cindy said there at the beginning, and I totally agree with her, having gone through this myself with some of my close people, is that constant having to tell their story. I mean, when we had our first talk about that, I think I remember the first time I met you,
Yeah.
we were just sitting around a table talking about things and what we could do or couldn't do. And that was one of the biggest things I always remember, because it's nice to be able to not have to go through that. It's painful usually to them go
Yeah.
through it again and again. So I love that. I love the tutoring idea. And I think reaching out to some of our older kids, and it'll take, or adults, it'll take a little bit of time.
Mhm.
I think we find the right leverage. And as long as there's a spot where we can do those handoffs, and I think what Jean was saying, like, this is where it's very important. And that's why I was so happy that Wellington County came on board with some good money, also to help with some of the staffing issues, because I think if we show that we can create what we've done, as the governments have to come back with more money for mental health, they're talking about it all the time. But one problems with federal governments and provincial governments sometimes is it's great to say we're going to put so much money into it, but if there's no place for them to put it where it's actually going to be useful properly, then there's no spot for it. So they tend to want to do programs and recreate the wheel when they don't have to. So and I know you're going to be working on that, Cindy, because I know you're
We're making headway.
in that area.
Hey, they gave us $650,000 for a clinical team.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's more.
And the
There's more.
triage, I think the triage is so important.
Yeah.
Again, you can get caught, I mean, giving an 800 number out or a health number. I mean, if you have a crisis number, it's nice if you get a hold of somebody and you actually could maybe talk you down, but at the end of the day, that warm handoff, that ability to do that. So, and we know and I give the Guelph Rotary a lot of credit for looking and saying, listening that there's rural people out there, and we've worked well with Wellington County on this. I know Wellington County feels very much that they want to be a partner in the mental health issues, as you know.
Yeah.
So I think this is just it's a start.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I would see more and more pleasant surprises that we're going to, stories like Ron told you and I've got a couple stories that we sent people there, and those soft handoffs, and then your staff just looked after them so well and got them to that point where we don't want them to have that, because it's easy today for you to get down. And the little kids, and they're starting out, it's nice to see they want to come in at 10. Just the fact that they're getting in there and they're getting a positive attitude, and they've got a spot that they're going to go through the trials and tribulations as they grow up,
Mhm.
and that they know that they've got a place that they outreach that they can go to and move forward. And whatever other can say is that the both of you have so much passion for this. You have to have passion to be successful in this world. And your passion for this from day one, and Cindy, your passion for it, I just really appreciate it. And I know this council does too. So thank you very much for your presentation today, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence, moved by Councillor Gusson, second by Councillor Dirksen. The council receives the correspondence information. Anybody want to pull anything there? No. All in favor? Carried. Reports of committees and town staff, the culture roundtable, and I guess board's going to make the presentation. I don't know, but we let Belinda have a holiday.
We did. I think she deserves it. She's
I did see a Facebook there where she's sitting on a dock with her young
Yeah.
daughter. Seemed to be enjoying a lake front somewhere. So
Hopefully we're without her phone or anything.
Excellent.
There, so, yeah, I'll just go through a couple of the highlights. We met at the end of June on the 27th. It's nice. We're back talking about events and not canceling events. So that's a great change. As you know, the Pride Committee held quite a few things, their Pride in the Park and the bag show and all that. Despite a few little incidents, they carried on. The Youth Action Council, quite relevant after that. And as we know, they're now headquartered in the Grove in Palmerston. And it's interesting to see their demographics too. They skew a little younger, but get them young and hopefully they'll stay. So they've been participating in the farmers market and all the downtown events, Clifford, Harrison and Palmerston and doing quite well. More diversity, equity and inclusion. As we all know, that's an important topic for youth and for others. And we're working at setting up a more formal committee, probably in the early part of the next council's term. Myself and Peggy and Megan Raftis, we just completed our series of 4 workshops trying to develop capacity in the arts. The workshops were fantastic. We did a great team. We're working on the wrap-ups and reporting to the Trillium Foundation. And also for anyone in the arts community that's interested, we have the symposium, supposed to be biannually, but we haven't had one since 2018. And it's going to be in Prince Edward County in October. Culture Days, again, the former committee, myself and Jennifer Frayne and again, Peggy and Megan were going to hopefully hand off some of the work to Jennifer and Amy Sarja. And the Culture Days, again, we don't set the dates or anything, but the deadline for registration is July 31st. So if anyone's interested, just let us know. And all the members of the committee reported on their own activities, but again, the theater group had a great show this spring. Race's Crown Theater is back doing events again. The libraries are doing programs, and of course, the farmers market has really been going well. Councillor Anderson and the whole Horticultural Society were able to have their very successful garden festival, piggybacking with the Fireman's Breakfast in early June. And yeah, and I was able to present, and I guess one of the highlights was I showed the Come to Minto video at a Culture Day seminar in Toronto, and it wasn't just people from Toronto, but people from all over, and we did get an ovation for the video, so that was great. So anyway, we'll certainly take any questions, but
I'll get the motion there and then we'll go to the questions. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott. The council receives the Cultural Roundtable Committee minutes of June 27th, 2022 and approves any recommendations contained therein. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Great. Staff reports. We've got Terry's filling in for the Harrison Industrial Park. Terry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a really long time coming. Belinda and I have been working on this for the past 3 years. It always seemed like it was a simple land sale, but we came across hiccup after hiccup. We ended up having to do a traffic study to justify an entrance to MTO. So we did that. COVID hit, so that shut down the traffic study. Got that done. Everything was looking good. And then suddenly the MTO retained a 1.6-inch parcel across, bisecting the property. That caught us like way off guard. So anyways, having said that, we've finally made it to this point. So we're going to be selling those parts to that really long numbered company, which is Harrison Home Hardware. They are willing to pay the full asking price of $4,000 for the 2.4 acres. We are maintaining control over part 5 that's in the registered plan for both a stormwater management facility for the Tuffy McDougall subdivision that's currently on there, as well as, if needed, a servicing corridor to the John Street lift station for the former Leslie subdivision. As you'll see attached to the bylaw, there's 3 different agreements. There's 2 agreements of purchase and sale. One is because of the MTO parcel. So instead of us having to pay MTO money for their lot by keeping it separate, selling it on its own, which they'll have to merge after the fact, then at least we only have to pay MTO $1. And then the other is the option to purchase. So our lawyer has had some difficulties at the land registry office registering some documents. So to avoid that, the building covenants that we normally have in there are contained in the APS, but then they're also pulled out into this separate option to purchase. So the standard 1 year to build after you get a building permit. The size of the proposed building is slightly less than our minimum 15%. It came in at about 12.7 based on what their proposal is, which staff are okay with because of the irregular shape of the lot and that we're still holding the easement on part 5, so they can't physically build there. So the building they're proposing is roughly 13,500 square feet, which will generate a little under 60,000 for DCs. The lot has yet to be serviced with water and sanitary sewer from John Street. So servicing it from the backside of that property, but it is in Belinda's budget for this year. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mayor Rich. Share this beautiful map.
Yeah.
I've always marveled at that map that I'm looking at. But where will the driveway entrance be?
So
Is it part 5?
it will be over part 5. Right at the edge of part 5 is actually where the existing guardrail starts. So it's just going to be tucked in beside it. Yep.
It's just a great project finally coming through. It's been, because it'll do a lot of stuff for downtown as well.
Exactly. It'll open up 2 parcels down there. So
Which I know there's some activity already around, so that's good. Okay, I'll read it, and then if there's any more questions, you can have it. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor McKenzie. Council of the Town of Minto receives report Economic Development 2020. I got it right, yeah, 2022-014 regarding the sale of land in the Harris Industrial Park to 100049693 Ontario Inc. Ontario Limited, and that the council considers a bylaw in open session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreements of purchase and sale and option to purchase. Anybody, any more questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Opposed, if any, none. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Are you up? Oh, Gord's doing the next one. All right, Gord.
Great, thank you, Mayor Bridge. Yes, our second economic development one, another good news, this time in the former village of Clifford. I know council attended the grand opening last week, and this is the former Leonard's Variety, the Clifford Country Store. And there's been some improvements to the signage and as well as to the facade. I think well illustrated by the pictures included in the report. So we're recommending a facade grant for $1,500 and a signage grant for $1,000. And just as a matter of interest, we've approved $49,588 to date in 22 of the 100,000 budgeted. And if these grants are approved, we'd still have 47,911. So glad to see some more work going on in the commercial sector.
Great. I will do this one and then ask for any questions. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Gutson. The Council of Town of Minto receives report Economic Development 2022-015 regarding signage improvement grant 008 for $1,000 and facade improvement grant C10 for $1,500 for the Clifford Country Store located at 38 Laura Street North, Clifford. And the Council of Town of Minto approves these grants. Any questions? I just want to say thank to some of the councilors who are able to make up for the ribbon cutting. I've been up there a few times. What a change. I don't want to say improvement because Leonard had his own way of doing things, But it certainly is going to be a place where people are going to stop, I think.
Very well.
Got a lot of great local artists in there. She's got, and I believe she's going with a British food. Across the road now at the other small convenience store, they've got some Dutch stuff in. So it's kind of nice. We're getting that kind of different flavors in there of different food stuffs that people might stop at when we come up to the through Clifford as we get that park redone and all that stuff. So it's kind of, Clifford's really becoming interesting. But nice young lady, and her dad, as a curiosity, when I was introduced the Saturday, the grand opening, and he comes down from upstairs where she's, and I look at him and I recognize him, and his name is Jim, and he was the caretaker at the London County Museum for about 20 years.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Just retired recently, but he's farmered from down in Bellwood area. So yeah, so they're local, but she was 10 years in Toronto before she came back to the small towns that she wanted to come back to. So really good, be good addition to Clifford for sure.
Excellent.
Okay, anybody, all in favor? I'm sorry. That's carried. Thank you. Next up, we'll get Terry back. This is sort of a like pass the
Just Terry
baton.
Moore.
Yeah.
So yeah, council will recall dealing with this subdivision at the last council meeting where the subdivision agreement was approved. One of the conditions within that plan, the plan of subdivision is requirement to pass a bylaw to name the street that subdivision. So the subdivision itself does contain two extensions of existing streets. So a John Street extension as well as an Ann Street extension. And also contains two new streets that he paints. So I reached out to the Legion and they recommended a couple of veterans, which the bio is attached to my report, but they are Jerry Dean and Arden Thackeray. So just a couple of highlights of their service to the country. So Jerry attended both the Hairston Public and Hairston High School. She worked in the munitions factory in Galt prior to joining the Royal Canadian Air Force as a nurse's assistant in Toronto and Hagersville, and then moved back to Hairston after. Harvey Thackeray moved to Hairston in 1939, joined the Army in 1942, went overseas till 1946, and then moved back to Hairston. Worked locally at Hairston Packers, Hairston Motors, and the Hairston Police Force. So we looked at the type of streets that are requiring the names and found that they met the depth. So in looking at the names that were suggested and the street types provided, we are suggesting that the street, which would be Street B, is named Bean Street, and then Thackeray Way would be Street C. That shall Ann Street itself needs to be named, so the Ann Street extension across the road. The issue there is there's no east and west associated with Ann Street, whereas all the rest are. So the existing Ann Street, I will have to rename it as Ann Street East, and then the other side of Elora Street will be Ann Street West, just to maintain with the other streets that cross over Elora. I won't be renumbering any of the existing ones. Figuring out over the past few years when renaming or numbering properties, to watch that you don't duplicate numbers from on the other side. Just you get a package delivered at 10 Queen Street North, and it's intended for 10 Queen Street South. That's something, some comments. If there's any questions on that.
Questions? Other than just to say there are two people that did a lot of work for the Legion over the years as well, and it's nice that the Legion brought them forward. Being that when I first saw it, I mean, I remember her quite well because they just live up the street, and yeah, she was a great lady. Of course, Mr. Thackeray, everybody knows Harvey. Right, Dave? Yeah, so great people. And do you know if, like, I know we haven't done it. I'm still wanting to do it before, but we ran it with COVID and whatever. We're still working on doing the ones in Palmerston with the Legion. The Legion wants to dedicate them at both Bridgeway and Stevenson. So when this is done, Terry, then hopefully that the council would continue on that process. And I know the Legion in Harrison, I think when they did Tuffy Way, they did a little ceremony, came down, and so just maybe follow up with them.
Yep. There is still one building under construction on Stevenson Way, so it may not be a bad idea just to hold off on, yeah.
September.
Yeah, okay.
And the families, I've talked to the families, because there's 4 bridge, like my dad, but there's my uncle and there's 2 other cousins that are all in the war. So that's being honored for 4 bridges. And then Stevenson, there's 2, I believe, that are honored for that one. So the Legion in Palmerston wants to do a little thing, and then we'll have it back to the Legion afterwards. They're gonna have a little do. So we'll probably do it in September when they finish the construction. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Anybody else? Okay, I think I got a resolution. Moved by Council Elliott, second by Council Anderson, the Council of Town Minto receives a report building 2022-05 regarding the street named within the draft approved subdivision 23T 2021 and Maitland Meadows subdivision, and approves renaming Ann Street to Ann Street East and naming Street A to Ann Street West and naming Street B to Bean Street and Street C to Thackeray Way. All in favor? Carry. And you're still on there.
Yes.
Presbyterian Church Services.
So council will recall commenting on the consent application that was brought forward a while ago, splitting the church from the manse in Palmerston. So there's a corner of Main and Henry Street. During the review of that application, staff realized that the water service between the 2 buildings is shared. So there's only one curb stop coming off of Henry Street, then it's split to service both buildings. It's town policy not to share services to parcels on individual properties. An example as to why not: if one person was in default for their water bill, we went to shut the water off, we'd be impacting the adjacent property. So the persons looking after this consent application on behalf of the church did reach out to a contractor to obtain a price for the work and as well to schedule it. Being how busy everybody is, there wasn't sufficient time in the very near future to get that new water line brought to the manse. The church would like to close the property at the end of this month. So they reached out to staff if there was another alternative to not installing that service, but if there was something that we could use to clear the condition. So we chatted about it internally, and a servicing agreement would be the way to go. So basically it allows for the town to hold 110% of what the quoted amount is. If they don't do it within a year, then the town can go in and do it for them and use that security amount to pay the contractor. After the service is in, Public Works did ask for a $5,000 or a portion of the security to be held, like $5,000 for a period of a year, just in case there's any settlement or anything like that, that we have something to either fix up a deficiency or hold them to, get them to fix it up. So the security amount, the 110% totals to $320.80. And the servicing agreement is attached for your review. So if there's any questions on that.
I'll make the motion here. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Dirksen. The Council of Town of Minto receives 2022-06 regarding the service agreement between the town and trustees of the congregation of the Knox Church and the town of Palmerston, passed bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a service agreement. Questions?
That amount to hold 15,320.
So the cost,
1,000.
oh, sorry, no, I probably did, but no, 15,000.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any? Don't see any. That is passed. I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Turton for financial.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Got a couple of items. Housekeeping. Development charge. What did you?
Great, thanks, Chair Turton. Yes, as you noted, there are a couple of statutory reports. So we're reporting on the calendar year 2021. And council may remember that we modified slightly the development charges that were in place during that year because we had the original 2019 study, which came into effect in 2020. And then the provincial government was doing a lot of legislative changes, so we had to reflect them partway through 2021. I guess the main schedule is the first long one, noted the annual treasurer's statement of reserves. So it was that we began the year with $1,134,738. Again, thanks Terry here, our building permit activity often results in higher development charge collection. So they amounted to $480,409. We invest that money in our reserves, so that was $7,741. And then it was used for $536,000 in capital projects. And there's a little bit more on the next page of what those projects were. And when you drive home tonight, you'll see some of them because two of them were for White's Road, the water and the wastewater servicing, $285,160, and also in the Palmerston Industrial Park, extending services, primarily water and that, and roadways for $91,000. So again, we're on track, I think, for another good year of development charges. So that's where we are to date. And we're just saying that we're in compliance. We collected them legally and spent them and recorded them the same way. I'll take any questions.
All right.
Certainly. Through you, the motion is moved by Councillor Gunson and seconded by Councillor Elliott that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report of finance 2022-016 regarding 2021 development charge reserve funds, and that the Council of the Town of Minto accepts the treasurer's declaration that the town is in compliance with section 59.11, and that the report and related attachments be posted to the town's website.
Thank you very much. All in favor of this motion? Second. Is to do with parkland and reserve.
Great. It is. I wish it was bigger. Yes, thank you. Again, this is when we received cash in actual park. So again, we started the year with just over $38,000. We had two $500 contributions from a couple of small local developments totaling $1,000. We earned $257 in interest, and we finished the year with $39,259. And I know the whole parkland, it's been in the paper again this week, not here, but it's like, wow. Certainly, I think Minto is very fortunate in having lots of parkland for our residents, but some of the fast growing cities, it's like they may have the parkland, but they don't have it where the people are. So anyway, who knows? Maybe this legislation will get changed some year. That's where we are right now.
Questions for Gordon? Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Turton, moved by Councillor Anderson and seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that Council of the Town of Minto receives report finance 2022-017 regarding 2021 Parkland Reserve Fund.
All in favor of this motion?
I've got other businesses to close, additional items, and I started off with Judy. Go ahead, Judy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to mention that on Friday evening, I delivered greetings and emceed the Harrison Minto Ambassador to the Fair contest. So a number of wonderful young people from Minto we're in that contest, and Shaylin Thompson is the 2022-23 Hairston Minto Ambassador of the Fair. And Ellie Bowman is the junior ambassador. The event was well attended and well organized, and all the contestants did a great job. We've got just a great bunch of kids here in Minto, that's for sure.
It's great to see it happening again, Judy.
Yes, it was nice because the last one was 3 years ago, and so it was nice to get that, nice to see these things coming back again, that's for sure.
Ron,
Yeah, this is not, this is kind of a negative thing, but I think we better bring it forward to try and make it public. Only because it's about the vandalism in the park and in Palmerston in general. And I wrote down what happened. They pulled the pump at the fountain at the front of the church or at the building. This is all over about 2-3 weeks. They've done this. They're jumping up and down on the stands that are at the ballparks until they break them, trying to pull them apart. They broke the bench at the waterfall again, that we had to replace again. This is the second or third time that they've done that. They smashed a window at the museum. They somehow got into it was between we had our party in the park the night before, and the Lions had left some of their items in there, and they had a church service the next day. Between the time that the church service left and our staff got down to close it, like probably within a half hour or so, they got into the kitchen part of it, and there was ketchup in there, and they took that and they put that over the sidewalk. And I also heard later that they took that ketchup and poured it over somebody's car. So the other night I found them. They got into the washrooms at the pavilion, and they broke a toilet and also broke the toilet paper dispenser off the wall. Red toilet paper throughout that. There's graffiti all over town, different places where they're graffitiing things. The police are involved. Thank goodness there's myself, and there's more people like myself. I phone the police every time there's something happening. They have names of possible suspects, and I've got that from wherever they get their information from. And I also had somebody call me and give me names, and they matched up to what the police have, but they have to catch them in the act pretty well. That's why the reason I'm bringing it up, we need the community to take hold of this. And if they see anything, to report it right away. If they catch anybody vandalizing, not to approach them, but if they recognize and report that to the police. In talking to the police, that there was things out on Facebook saying the police aren't doing the job. They sure are. They come as quick as they can. I know the one night when the toilet was broke, he was there within a half an hour. And they know the youth, so they've talked to them on the street, but it seems that youth have no fear. It's very disappointing. When there's only 4 or 5, we know who they are, but you got to catch them at it. And that's why it's important to get the public involved. There's no need for this. It costs the taxpayers money. It costs all of us. It's heartbreaking for the people that work, clean the park. And I would say most of the population going through that town, they pick up the litter and take care of our park, plus our staff. So not only our park, but throughout our town and different areas. So I'm so that the public will not be afraid to call the police and not be afraid to point to find about or to tell the police. They take your name, but that's not given to the people that are involved. So you won't probably ever be involved in it, but it's important that we do call. I think the fear is if you call the police that you're going to take the abuse of these. Don't be afraid of them. We've got to stop this, or at least curtail it. This is the worst I've ever seen. And I've been 50 years at that place. I've never seen anything like it. So it's got to stop. Thanks.
Thanks. And go ahead, Mark. Did you want to?
Through you, it looks like we're getting to the point where video can be put in appropriate places. They're inexpensive really when you think of it.
Yes, I did. I actually called a video company or a security company and asked them if they would come and at least give us a quote. No,
It might help.
after that fact, I would probably involve the staff in it and see costs and whether we can afford it or whether the Lions or different groups might be involved. But
you can
certainly we need them. And the police have said that they'd love to have the security cameras.
Because under a certain age, you can charge the parents for their damage.
That's right. They
At
say
any
that.
rate, it's an
So-
option for sure.
So I just want to say, and Chris, if you want to speak to this, you can. This has been sitting at department heads. Department heads been working with the police. The town hasn't been doing nothing about this.
No.
Again, it's very tricky, and I think you laid it out there right, Ron. You have to catch them sort of in the act, and I think as a community, we have to be vigilant, and we have to be sort of all of us out there with our eyes and ears open. And if we can get a hold of a few of them and finalize a couple of them, the video is great, except for the fact that sometimes the video is too grainy to actually get a good enough description of them, especially when they're doing it in the evenings and stuff like that. So, just if you see it happening, call the police right away. And if we happen to get a hold of them, by all means, I think. But I know, Chris, you want to say anything more on it? The parks guys they're watching it as much as we can. Anybody of us, did you want to speak to it? You might have to come up to the mic though. Because I know you've had some discussions on it, and I don't know where you want to go there.
Discussions, and we've been made aware, and I've talked to the police, we've had reports on that. They pulled up the flowers on the garden. So thank goodness Paul and Mike both water rescue flowers and good. So, but even some.
Duties is assigned.
Yeah, even more egregious, so they put a black garbage bag over a stop sign. We're responding to some reports to you, and I reiterate what Councilman said, that make sure they're calling police, because police not the reports, so that they have a number of reports, so they can increase the statistics and show that this is the trends and all that kind of stuff. They need that information, so know where the trends are, where the hotspots are, and they have the street units and all this stuff. Just leave that with us, Council Elliott. We will look into security cameras. We had talked to one of the department heads, and we've had talked to our security company use for our gear for our security system, like that. So we can eventually look at that in the report, or probably look at it, start including it in next year's budget. Where it is, probably we have identified as how it's so large to try and figure out exactly where we need to put that. Where to start. So I think that would be something.
Because it play. That's not a problem. So I think it's a general thing. So I think bringing it up is right, Ron, but at the same token, we've already been working, let's maybe back report.
Sure.
Down the road with.
We'll work on it. It might take us a minute to get through summer and that, but I don't know about that. Go back to what it is and having it as an overall plan isn't disclosed, so we don't tell everybody where the cameras are, but it's kind of surprising that do that type of we'll look into.
Put a TV camera on my deck and I could.
Yeah, and I think.
Might include in the monitoring part of it.
I think we'll get Aaron to work on the social media thing, because I think it'd be important to get it out in social media that where you need you as being the eyes and ears So we'll come up with something that go out in social media. I know we've had some in the past asking for that, so we can certainly do that as well. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
It's very frustrating.
Yes.
David.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Rich. I just wanted to say that the annual chamber barbecue was in Clifford and we had great representation from the council. We proved to, I think we proved to the chamber how important that connection is between council and chamber. Thank you, council. It was very well attended. The other thing was that folks were at the truck show. Rotary Club did a great job there on Saturday afternoon food. So, it's like all other events in Minto. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, and thanks for all that support that you're doing. I hated to miss the chamber thing, but I was picking up my daughter at the airport. So, but it was good. It was a good thing. And thank you for filling in on the pitch it too, because it was nice to see the pitch it winner. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to get some of those lures, Mark. We'll have to figure that out.
I had a chat with him. He's catching a few fish with those. So
Is he really? Did you figure out which ones, Mark?
he showed me one of them.
All right.
So they have to prove them before.
That's right.
Oh, I know that. Their thing when they were presenting.
Three people in the running.
Yep.
and, hard to pick one.
Yep. No, it's great to see again. Yep. That's good. All right. Anybody else? I guess I'm just, oh, Mark, did you have some? Sorry.
Couple of things, just after 2 years, the Drew people are finally having their pork barbecue again.
Oh, I see that.
July
Yeah.
23rd.
Yep.
Drop in.
Yep.
I don't know who, it's on our website, actually.
I think it's on the board out there now.
Yeah, so that's happening. The History Society is having a July and August sports display opening Monday upstairs
Oh,
in the
nice.
library. All sports that we could assemble and
Nice.
should be a good display. And the other thing is a waste manager or storm management complaint the council last week. I wasn't here, but the swimming pool, sidewalk and curb is too high to allow the water to get to the catch basin or the river. So it's ponding and covering half of Queen Street and the parking lot's full of water. I'm bringing that forth. Hopefully that can be, I don't know what they're going to do. They have to tear out the curb.
Well,
Never did that before.
we'll have it count. We'll have the staff look into it.
Thanks.
I don't know if that. I don't know if that complaint came into the staff or not, so I'd have to check. I just don't remember.
After every rainstorm, it ponds and it covers half, the water can't get away to the storm drain. The curb's too high.
Could you have that person reach out to Cam?
You go and look at
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll do it.
All right. Anybody else? I'm just going to talk about some of the, like, we had, Clifford had an amazing, it really surprised us. Scouts ran out of food, ran out of hot dogs and fries, and yeah, everything went really well. And I give Belinda and that crew and the Clifford Connect group a lot of credit. They've kicked off a really good thing. We, of course, had the Rail Fest, which we had great success with. 430 people at the Rail Fest.
70 dresses and it was very well done.
Very good.
Ladies had a great time and the hall was full.
Excellent. All right. Oh, that's going backwards. Let's go this one. Okay. By Counselor Gusson, by Counselor Elliott. Like,
No.
we already
Motion
did
to
that.
return to regular.
Oh, here,
council.
no, additional items. I was looking at this one. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, here we are. Moved by Counselor Dirksen, second by Counselor Gudson. The committee of the whole convenes a regular council. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Counselor McKenzie, second by Counselor Elliott. The Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the committee of the whole. All in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Moved by Counselor Elliott, second by Counselor Anderson, the bylaw number 2022-69 to authorize the sale of lands in the Harrison Industrial Park to 100049693 Ontario Limited be approved and read first, second, and third time, passed over council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Okay, here's,
If you wish, if any assistance, let me know.
no, that's. Number 2022-71 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of Town of Minto to execute the organizing special shareholders resolution for Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time. And passed over council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Counselor Anderson, second by Counselor Elliott, the bylaw number 2022-72 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of the Town of Minto to execute the share subscription for Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor McKenzie, second by Councilor Dirksen, that the bylaw number 2022-74 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of Town of Minto to execute the organizing shareholders resolution for Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time, passed on council, seal the corporation. All in favor?
For you, Mayor Bridge, sorry, did we miss D?
Number 70.
Oh, did we? Oh, that maybe I was back here at the beginning. Okay, sorry. I'll just do that with it.
Thank you, sorry.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Gudson, the bylaw number 2022-70 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site services agreement between the corporation of Town of Minto and the trustees of the congregation of the Knox Church be approved, read first, second, and third time, and passed on from council, seal the corporation. All in favor? It's carried. Now, I think, where am I now? 73 or 74? 75?
74, I
I
believe.
think 74.
Yes.
Moved by Councilor McKenzie, second by Councilor Dirksen. That the bylaw number 2022-74 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of Town of Minto to execute the organizing shareholders resolution of the Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time, passed over council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the bylaw number 2022-75 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of Town of Minto to execute the remedial resolution of shareholders of Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time, passed on to council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor McKenzie, the bylaw number 2022-76 to authorize the mayor and clerk of the corporation of Town of Minto to execute the remedial resolution of the audit exemption of the Minto Hydro Services Inc. be read first, second, and third time, and passed on to council, seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Gudson, second by Councilor Elliott, the bylaw number 2022-77 to confirm actions of the council of the corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held July 12th, 2022 be read first, second, and third time and passed open council and seal the corporation. All in favor? And last but not least, moved by Councilor Anderson, second by Councilor Dirksen, the council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again to call the mayor. All in favor? Thanks for a great meeting, everybody.